Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Robert Allen, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is able seaman Courtney Taylor. This evening, we warmly welcome the family of Private Herbert Ernest Walters, whose story will be told shortly. We also warmly welcome the representatives from the Vietnam Veterans, Peacekeepers and Peacemakers Association Mudgee Sub-Branch in attendance this evening. As always, we welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by family and visitors to the memorial. If you're able, please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. Those requiring a seat, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we will remember and pay tribute to Private Herbert Ernest Walters. Herbert Walters was born on the 31st of August 1916 in Mount Perry, Queensland, the son of John and Bertha Walters. He grew up in the Bundaberg region of Queensland, and at the advent of the Second World War was living and working as a labourer in Childers. Herbert Walters enlisted in the 2nd Australian Imperial Force on the 8th of June 1940. He soon entered camp at Enoggera and in August joined the newly raised 2nd 25th Battalion. After assembling at Groveley Camp, the battalion began training at Groveley and around Darwin. In late February 1941, Private Walters had a period of pre-embarkation leave. Returning late, he was fined for being absent without leave before returning to Brisbane to complete preparations for overseas service. Embarking from Sydney in early April 1941, the 2nd 25th landed in Egypt in early May and moved out into the desert to join the 25th Brigade of the 7th Australian Division, which was manning defences along the Egypt-Libya frontier against an expected German attack. The 2nd 25th occupied positions at Mersa Matruh for the next 2 months before returning to Palestine in preparation for its first offensive operation, the invasion of Syria and Lebanon, which began on the 8th of June. The British invaded Syria and Lebanon in June, primarily to prevent the Axis powers from using the Vichy French-controlled Syrian Republic and French Lebanon as bases for attacks against Egypt. Axis powers, however, also hoped to support nationalist Iraqi forces against the pro-British regime, thereby preventing Britain from accessing the Iraqi oil fields. An earlier coup in Iraq had threatened British control, with the country becoming a refuge for Arab leaders who fled Palestine as a result of the failed Palestinian Arab revolt against British. The 2nd 25th Battalion was initially held in reserve for the 25th drive into eastern Lebanon, and its companies were widely scattered. After being reunited, Private Walters and his battalion fought their first major battle of the campaign at the town of Merjanoun on the 19th of June. Merjanoun stood at the front of the pass that led to British-held Palestine. It had been held by Australians, but been lost in a counter-offensive by the Vichy French. Given inadequate time to prepare and confronted by tanks, the 2nd 25th failed to capture Merjanoun, suffering heavy casualties. Among the dead was Private Herbert Walters, killed in action on the first day of battle. Initially buried in Beirut, his remains were later reinterred in Damascus Commonwealth War Cemetery in Syria, where they lie today underneath the inscription chosen by his family, "Never shall his memory fade." He was 24 years old. His name is listed on the honour roll to my left among some 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. His photograph is displayed by the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Herbert Ernest Walters, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they'll be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of our director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support during the memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening. Thank you.